story time about how I found my husband using Tinder and all the freaking dating apps. Claim this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Once again, I'm at the airport, sorry. My husband and I were both total sluts when we met. He was seeing like 10 girls when I first met him, and I was dating 3 guys at the time. Well, let me tell you, neither of us trusted each other, like not one bit. Eventually, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I really wasn't sure if I wanted to say yes, but I did. He is so good looking. Like everywhere we go, we get told we're such a good looking couple. So we know we're both pretty good looking. To be fair, we were both addicted to Instagram. I would get tons of DMs from guys, and sometimes I would answer. And I know that he was getting DMs from girls, although he never told me. We dated for a year, and then he asked me to marry him. Of course, I said yes. I thought this was his way of telling me that he was going to commit to me 100%. After 6 months of being married, I started getting really suspicious. He would never leave his phone unattended, and if we were having dinner, he would always put his phone face down. I know you all know that's a red flag. Basically, he was hiding his phone from me like all the time. One night, we got super drunk, and I made sure to wait until he fell asleep. I got on his phone and found Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I found out my husband was using Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge all at the same time. But yeah, and cheating on me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So I got him drunk enough that he fell asleep. I got onto his phone and I found all the dating apps. I quickly screenshot every conversation he'd had on each of the apps. I was literally on his phone for 4 hours. Like, I didn't sleep at all that night. And the whole time I was reading his messages, I was crying. Like, I literally thought he was dedicated to me. I sent myself all of the screenshots and then deleted them from his phone. I also went through his Instagram and found a bunch of DMs from different girls. And a lot of them were big influencers. I can spill so much tea about that, by the way. I found a bunch of naked pictures from girls as well. And he even had a freaking Snapchat. At that point, I couldn't look anymore. So here's what I did. I invited both of our families to our house for dinner. Ordered from a super fancy restaurant and made sure everyone was coming. When we sat down to dinner, I told him I was going to go get my laptop. He asked me why, and I told him to give me a second. He literally thought I was going to give him a big surprise. That's when I exposed him in front of both of our families. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I found out my husband was using dating apps, cheating on me, and I exposed him in front of both of our families. So as everyone is sitting down and having dinner, I start a slideshow of all the DMs, pictures that had been sent between him and all these girls. Yes, I was petty enough to make a slideshow. My husband looks at me and tells me to take it down. Of course I didn't. That's when his mom got up from her chair and slapped him straight across the face. Of course my husband started crying instantly. His dad even grabbed him by the shoulders and shook him. My family was in shock. They were so disappointed in him. Mind you, him and my mom had a great relationship. He hung out with my family all the time. That's when I asked him for a divorce and I told him I wanted everything. By the way, my husband and I own a business and he's got his own money. So I ended up taking more than half of the business, 3 out of the 4 cars that he owns, and lots of money. But here's the thing, I still love him. Even though I have my own apartment and we live separately, he comes over all the time for, you know what? Like, we still love each other and still like each other, but I can't get past the fact that he actually cheated on me. He's asking for me to go back with him, but honestly, I don't know if I should. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? But I'm gonna expose myself. I cheated on him too. What a story time about how I did the you-know-what with my celebrity crushes. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I'm from a really small town in the Midwest. Growing up, I knew I wanted to go to LA and be famous. As soon as I turned 20, I decided to move to LA. Showed up to LA with $400 in a dream. My dream was to meet all of my celebrity crushes. I happened to be tall and pretty good looking, so I got myself a modeling agency. A few weeks after I got to LA, I booked my first job. I got to model for a runway show. From there, I met a stylist who introduced me to a bunch of people. And from that, I was able to start going to a bunch of industry parties. I met tons of celebrities, influencers, and basically socialites. I even met Kim Kardashian at a party 4 years ago. When I would go to these parties, I would tell people that I was a model. But in order to prove that, I had to have a pretty big following on Instagram. So I took all of my savings that I had, and I bought myself 100,000 followers on Instagram. With those 100,000 followers, I was able to get verified. And after that, I started DMing as many celebrities as I could, especially my celebrity crushes. And no, I won't say who they are. After a few weeks, I still didn't have the responses that I wanted, aka from my celebrity crushes, but I started getting some responses from other celebrities. Not as famous or good looking, but still people that could definitely help me get to them. Basically, my life consisted of going to castings, go-sees, and going to photo shoots. I also started doing music videos, and this is when it really got interesting. I started meeting tons of rappers and started getting invited to bigger and bigger parties. Like, really exclusive parties. The kind where you couldn't take your phone in, and the kind where you had to sign an NDA to make sure that you couldn't say anything about what you saw at the party. My Instagram was also growing really quickly. I went from 100,000 followers to 150,000 within a few months. I even became really good friends with some celebrities that worked on TV shows, like the kind of TV shows that you guys see on Netflix. I felt like I was getting closer and closer to my dream, but still, I never met my celebrity crushes at any of those parties. One morning, I wake up to a few DMs on my Instagram, and it was one of my celebrity crushes. I basically sent him a message just saying, "Hey, I'm in town, I'd love to take you out for a drink." And he replied with a yes. Nothing else, just a yes. I quickly replied and asked him if he wanted to go for a drink that night. He agreed to meeting up at a bar on Sunset Boulevard. I want you guys to understand something though. I was looking for a boyfriend, not just a one night, you know. So I wore my cutest outfit, nothing sexy. I basically looked like a Chanel model from the 1950s. As soon as he saw me, he told me that I was beautiful and we got to talking. Everything was going really, really great. After that, you know what happened. But here's the thing. I messaged him on Instagram the next day and he didn't reply. He didn't even ask me for my phone number. I got really sad, but the next day I opened up my DMs to another celebrity crush. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I did it with my celebrity crushes. So after I had my date with my biggest celebrity crush ever, he never called me back. But the very next day, I wake up to a DM from another celebrity crush. Now, I didn't think this one would respond because he was in a relationship at the time. No, I'm not going to say who it is. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. He was super nice over DM and asked me if I wanted to go have lunch. I said yes, of course. We decided to have lunch on the weekend. Throughout the week, he would message me and ask me how I was, but 2 days before the meeting, he totally ghosted me. I didn't hear back from him at all. So the day before the date, I texted him. He finally replied and told me that he had been working. We decided to have dinner and he started asking me tons of questions, like if I had a boyfriend, and I told him I was totally single. When I asked him if he had a girlfriend, he stayed quiet. He said he didn't want to answer that question. Of course I knew he had a girlfriend because it was all over the tabloids. Like there were tons of paparazzi pictures of them together. But here's the thing. We had a fancy dinner. Then he asked me if I want to go back to his place. Of course I said yes. And when I get there, I see pictures of him with his girlfriend, the one he didn't want to talk about before. I then go to the bathroom, open the cabinets, and it's full of girl stuff. I quickly realized that he took me to his girlfriend's place to you know what. I mean, maybe they had an open relationship, but at the same time, like, why would he take me to his girlfriend's place? But I kept my goal in mind. We finally, you know what, and then afterward he asked me if I wanted to sleep over. That's when I told him no because I knew that we were in his girlfriend's place. He starts laughing and tells me that she's out of town and that she'll never find out that he took me there. I asked him how many girls he's taken there before, and once again he said he didn't want to answer the question. He then hit me up every single day for like a month. I didn't know if I should see him again because of the whole girlfriend thing, but then I got another DM. Part 3 is up. Part 3 about how I did it with my celebrity crushes. Claire, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. So finally, my third celebrity crush DMs me back. No, I'm not going to say who it was, but he's pretty famous. He actually invited me over to his place for dinner. He ordered some takeout and we watched a movie. We finally got down to it, you know what, and it was really bad. And the worst part is, afterward, he asked me if it was good. Of course, I lied and said, yes, it was great. The look of relief on his face was apparent. How could it be so insecure being so famous and so attractive? I didn't get it. I actually did go out with him 2 more times, but I kind of got bored of him. Remember the second celebrity I told you about in part 2? He started getting really crazy. He would call me and text me all the time, and when I wouldn't answer, he would send me messages asking where I was. He became super jealous and controlling. I decided to block him, but I'm now considering if I should maybe unblock him, because the other celebrities I DM'd haven't DM'd me back. But I have a whole new list of celebrities I'm going to be DMing. Should I text number 2 back? What do you guys think?